everyone, and welcome or welcome back. In this video, I'm going to go over all of the books that I read in April. I read 7 books in April, and I actually managed to get through every book on my TBR, so I'm very happy about that. I read some fantasy romance, some dystopians, and overall I had a really great reading month. My lowest rated was a 3-star, but we got a 5-star as well. But let's get started with the first book, which is 6 Scorched Roses by Carissa Broadbent. And this is technically a standalone, I think, but it's also a novella in the Crowns of Nyaxia series that is recommended to read after the first book, Serpent in the Wings of Night. And this was really short, but I actually really liked it. I ended up giving it 4 stars. And in this, we are following Lilith, who is terminally ill and has been for her entire life. And everyone else in her town is slowly being lost to this mysterious god-cursed plague. And Lilith is determined to find a cure for this plague. And in her search for a cure, she strikes a bargain with a vampire named Vale. The terms of this bargain are that she will give him 6 rare roses in exchange for 6 vials of his blood, which is what she believes she needs to cure this plague. And this one had me intrigued and hooked right from the start, which is a good thing because, like I said, it's really short, like less than 200 pages, I think. I immediately wanted to know more about this plague and why she thought the vampire blood would cure it. I was also really pulled in by the gothic atmosphere that this had. I loved it. It takes place partially in this gothic mansion that I really enjoyed. I loved both of our main characters in this one. Lilith is like this serious academic who comes across as pretty cold. We do know that she's not actually as cold as she tries to seem because we know she's trying to cure her town of this plague. And Vale is kind of playful yet also grumbly. I really liked him. He was a fun character. My biggest complaint for this book, honestly, is that I just wish it was longer. To me, this could have been a full-length book and I would have gladly read it. I loved the atmosphere, the characters, the story. I just wanted more. And I'm excited to see more of these characters in the rest of the series, I'm assuming. Book number 2 for April was Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman, and this is the first book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. And I kind of unexpectedly really loved this. I gave it 4 stars. We are following Carl, who is out late one night trying to capture his ex-girlfriend's cat, Princess Donut, who slipped out of the house. While he's outside, all man-made structures collapse and are transferred underground, and anyone who was inside of these structures is gone. An announcement is heard that everyone who is left on Earth has to either find an entrance to the dungeons underground, or they have to stay and try to survive on Earth. Carl and Princess Donut find one of these entrances and enter the dungeons. They are entered in this video game-like reality show put on by Another Planet. It has loot boxes, experience points, health bars, those type of things that make it feel kind of like a video game. And the whole point is basically to survive the monsters that are in these dungeons and to descend through the levels and hopefully make it to the end, which I believe is level 18. But there is a time limit on each level and they have to find an entrance to the next level before the time runs out. And I was kind of unsure about this one going into it. It doesn't sound like something I would typically go for, but it was really fun and it was really different from anything else I've read. I thought the way it was set up like a video game was really fun and exciting to kind of see what they were going to get in their loot boxes and what achievements they were going to get. I loved Princess Donut, I loved Carl, and I'm really excited to see more of Mongo. While this was entertaining and fun, it also had some really good commentary on things like capitalism and corporate greed, and I'm really excited to continue and see what the rest of these levels entail. Next up is The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black, and this is the 3rd book in the Folk of the Air trilogy, and I gave this one 4.5 stars. I go back and forth between this one and The Wicked King, the 2nd book, for which is my favorite. I really loved both of them. But in the first book, The Cruel Prince, we follow Jude, who is a human living in the Fae realm after her parents were murdered by a Fae general. The Fae general took Jude and her sisters back to Fairy and he raised them. These are the type of Fae that are cruel and manipulative and hate humans. And so Jude has had kind of a hard time finding a place for herself in Fairy, but she desperately wants to belong. This is where she grew up. This is what she knows. She doesn't want to go back to the human realm. So we follow her journey trying to find a place that she can fit in. I love Jude so much. She is one of my favorite FMCs. I love an FMC that's not afraid to be the villain when she's treated badly. I've also grown to love Cardin as I've gotten to know him more and as I started to understand his intentions and the reasoning for his behavior a little bit better. I will say I hate Taryn slightly less. I really hated her throughout the whole series, She gets redeemed a little bit in this last book, I think. I still despise Locke. This plot was probably the most exciting of the three. I really did enjoy that. This series definitely has a true enemies to lovers, but the romance is more of a side plot. And I know there's more series that are set in the same world. I plan to read those after I finish the last novella, which is How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories. Next up is Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross, and this is the second book in the Letters of Enchantment duology. This one was a reread for me, and it's 5 stars again the second time. In the first book, Divine Rivals, we follow Iris and Roman, who are living in a world where there is a god and a goddess at war. Iris is struggling to keep everything together kind of on her own because her mother is struggling with alcohol and lost her job, and her brother has enlisted in the war and is on the front lines. Iris works at the Oath Gazette, where she is competing with Roman Kit for the position of columnist. Roman comes from a wealthy family who believes he should have just been given the position, so he's kind of bitter towards Iris. Some of the buildings in Oath have magical abilities from magic left over underground from the gods. Iris has been writing letters to Forrest, her brother, and she slips them under her closet door and they disappear. She assumes that some magic in her building is sending them to her brother, but they are actually going to her rival Roman Kit. But Roman knows who is sending them based on some things that have been said in her letters. I'm not going to talk too much about this one because I've talked about it a lot on my channel. It's one of my all-time favorites. I absolutely love this duology and the prequel, Wild Reverence. This world is just so enchanting, it pulls me right in every time. The characters are some of my favorites. I also really love the side characters. The romance in this one is really beautiful. Iris and Roman's story is really beautiful, and I just don't think I will ever get sick of reading this one. Next up is To Cage a Wild Bird by Brooke Fast, and this is the first book in the Divided Fates series, and I gave this one 4 stars. We follow Raven, who is a bounty hunter in Davidium. Davidium is a post-nuclear war United States ruled by 3 elected leaders, one for each sector. The sectors divide people based on their status and their wealth. But of course, all of the leaders live in the upper sector in really nice houses. In Davidium, breaking the law means going to Enlock prison for life, where the prisoners are hunted by the wealthy. Raven's brother ends up being arrested, and so Raven gets herself arrested, hoping to find him and get them both out of Enlock. I thought the setup for this corrupt dystopian world was really good. The pacing did feel a bit rushed just because this is a shorter book, and it felt like the setup and the introduction to the characters was a little bit fast for me. There's good commentary on classism, taking down a corrupt system, and these ultra wealthy people being willing to do anything for status. For example, they wear the teeth of the people that they hunt at Enlock as trophies to show how many trips to Enlock they've been able to afford and how successful they were at hunting. I thought Raven was a pretty interesting character. She's a bounty hunter who turns people into Enlock to be hunted, but she also clearly feels a lot of guilt about it and tries to balance it by only sending people who have done really terrible things. She talks about being a hypocrite because she hates the upper sector for hunting these people, and how she thinks the prison is bad for profiting off of the deaths of these people, but she also profits off of turning these people in to be hunted. As far as the romance goes, I didn't dislike the couple. I actually liked them, but their connection does feel like it just kind of comes out of nowhere. I really enjoyed the side characters in this. There were some things that shocked me and definitely kept my attention. The cliffhanger ending has me really excited for the next book. So a few complaints, but overall I really enjoyed it. The 6th book I read was The Awakening is Told by the Boys by Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti, and this is technically 1.5 in the Zodiac Academy series. You definitely don't want to read it second in the series, you want to read it later on. I read it after Shadow Princess. Reading it earlier on I think would spoil some things, but technically it is just the first book retold from the boys' perspective, so I guess that's why it's 1.5. But I gave this 3 stars, and in the first book, The Awakening, we follow twins Tori and Darcy, who have spent their lives in the human world thinking that they're humans, but they find out that they're actually fae and that they are the long-lost princesses and the heirs to the Solarian throne. They are taken to Zodiac Academy in Solaria to learn how to use their magic. When they get to Zodiac Academy, they find out that there were 4 celestial heirs who were meant to take the throne before the princesses were found, and the heirs are not happy about the twins' return. The heirs try to viciously bully the twins out of Zodiac Academy because if they don't graduate, then they cannot take the throne. This one is definitely my least favorite in the series so far. It's exactly what it claims to be. The first book, The Awakening as told by the boys, nothing more, nothing less. It felt less fun and exciting than the other books in the series because I already knew what was going to happen for the most part, and I didn't feel like it really added much considering it was actually longer than The Awakening, the actual first book. and being in the guys' heads all of the time was not my favorite thing. They were kind of cringy and gross at times. This book did make me like Orion even more though. I don't necessarily regret reading this because I do really love this series, but if I didn't, I don't think I would have enjoyed this. Okay, lastly, we have The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick. And this is the first book in the Rook and Rose trilogy, and this was my 5-star for April. And in this one we are following Ren, who is returning to her home of Nadezhra after she fled from the crime family that she was a part of. She is hoping to trick her way into a noble household by pretending to be an estranged family member. Nadezhra is one of 2 city-states that was created after the end of the war, where the Leganti invaded the Vrasenians, and to settle the war they agreed to create Nadezhra, and control of Nadezhra was given to the Leganti. And all of the seats in the Sinkarat, the rulers of Nadezhra, are Leganti nobility. Our main character Ren is half Vrasenian, and the Vrasenians living in Nadezhra are treated terribly and they are living in terrible conditions. Ren's mother was Vrasenian. She raised Ren alone as a single mother. So Ren was raised in these conditions in Nadezhra, and she's hoping to get back what she feels like Nadezhra took from her and her family and everyone she cares about. A strange nightmare magic comes to town and Ren ends up tangled up in trying to figure out how to stop it. This one has a really interesting and unique magic system with multiple ways of using magic. There's imbuing, where items are imbued with special abilities. There's numinatria, which uses ancient geometry. Pattern, which is kind of like tarot. And then there's this mysterious nightmare magic. There was really intricate world building. We learned a lot about the crime families, the political system, and the social hierarchy. It has interesting characters with good backstories. It can be a bit confusing because basically everything in this world has been changed and has a new term. And there's a glossary, but there are many terms that are not in the glossary that you still kind of have to decipher for yourself. And it's doable, but it can be kind of difficult at times. For example, how time works is different. They have sun-wise and earth-wise hours instead of like AM and PM. The months are different. You kind of have to figure that out as you go along. But there is also more information on the author's website that I didn't realize was there until it was too late, and that probably would have really helped. The first half is a bit slower. It's more about Ren just kind of playing the games with the nobility and trying to secure herself a place within the Trimentis family. But the second half really picks up and is really exciting and gets kind of dark and creepy. I'm definitely going to be continuing the series. Like I said, this was a 5-star read, but that is all of the books that I read in April. Let me know in the comments what you read in April. I'll leave my Instagram and my Goodreads linked in the description if you're interested. I would really appreciate it if you checked them out. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And I hope to see you all in the next one.